Welcome, everyone. At Congregation of the Dor Va-Dor, we like to allow voters to become educated on the issues and to know the candidates. Towards that end, we've invited candidates to be with us. And you can tell a lot about the candidates by the fact that they decided that they wanted to be with us and also to inform the voters about them. This will be recorded. If the candidates want to use this so that they can share this with others, you're welcome to do so. And it should be placed on our website so that others will be able to hear this even if they're not on with us right now. I do want to thank the candidates, and I know from being in elective office myself and also being an attorney, the judges are extremely limited in what they're allowed to say. So you'll ask them questions, and there's many things they won't be able to talk about, but whatever they can talk about, we're glad to hear. I would like to begin by, first of all, welcoming them and then also asking a few questions. Or actually, let's do it this way. I'll welcome them and they can share whatever thoughts they want to share. I'll ask a few questions, other people can too, and then I know you guys are really, really busy because it's campaign season, so we'll excuse you and we won't be offended if you can't stay for the whole time. Once you speak your piece, feel free to go on to other venues. Okay, so we have with us, first of all, Judge Gillen, and then also Adam Myron. So let me thank you for being here with Congregation of the Dor Va-Dor. Go ahead, Adam.
And just because she popped in, I just want to say hello to one of the other people in my race, CARYN Siperstein, who joined in a few moments ago as well. My name is Adam Myron. I want to thank everybody, Rabbi, everyone else. I really appreciate the opportunity to come speak to everyone tonight and introduce myself and tell you a little bit about my candidacy and what I hope to bring to Circuit Court Group 30. My name is Adam Myron. I'm running for Circuit Court Judge because I care deeply about helping ensure public confidence in the justice system. Let me tell you just a little bit about myself. I am from Palm Beach County originally. I grew up in the Western communities out in Royal Palm Beach in the late 70s, early 80s. I went through our public school system. My mother was a school teacher at Winbrook Elementary, a Title I school for approximately 4 decades before she retired. My father, most of his career was as a small business owner. I graduated from Suncoast High School in Riviera Beach. Went off to Emory University for college in Atlanta, went off to, after that, to George Washington University in Washington, D.C. for law school. And then a little bit after law school, after practicing a short while in D.C., I wanted to come home to Palm Beach County, to where my roots are, and serve my community as an attorney here. And so that's what I did. And in that time, I've practiced, over the last 18 years, in fact, I've practiced primarily in the areas of complex civil and commercial litigation, doing cases as varied as a nationwide action that we asserted on behalf of Uber drivers, to your standard breach of contract case, to a complex breach of contract case, to a legal malpractice action, to real estate transactions and litigation arising from that. So a very diverse type of practice. I've also done trust and estate litigation as well. And I'm also a certified circuit mediator. And so I have experience being an impartial, as well as an advocate, an impartial and neutral facilitator of conflict resolution, because I believe deeply in trying to facilitate conflict resolution where possible. So I have a vast experience. I have vast experience in court and outside of court as a legal advocate, but that's just one part of the equation. In this race, the Sun Sentinel did a very lengthy vetting process where we had to fill out questionnaires and then sit for an interview for roughly an hour. And at the end of the day, they felt that the incumbent that I'm challenging has some issues with his demeanor that have not gotten better over time. And so they felt that he, with him in this seat, confidence in the justice system is lacking. And they endorsed me in this race, which meant a whole lot, because here we had the Sun Sentinel, a credible news organization that was vetting all the candidates and decided that they felt I was best for this position. And the notion that they felt that my opponent has a demeanor problem deeply troubles me. And the reason it does is because I care about ensuring confidence in the justice system, and I don't think it's good for justice when people don't feel that a judge has both the legal skills and the demeanor necessary for the job. And so in that sort of scenario, where we have some significant bar poll ratings and reviews that have been done over time, where you see problems with demeanor, common sense, and control of the courtroom, having pretty low marks from people who have to certify that they have the amount of experience in front of a judge necessary to evaluate him. You know, I think it's important in that sort of a scenario for there to be challengers to that judge, so that Palm Beach County can determine whether or not it wants that judge to remain in the seat, because this is an electoral process, and I think it's important that we make a decision over time informed through those VAR poll ratings as to whether or not a judge should still be in the seat. So,
Adam, who are you running against?
Oh, his name is Judge JAIMIE GOODMAN. And, you know, I recognize that most people don't meet a judge until one of the worst days of their life. And so it's really important that you have people on the bench who care about the community and recognize that everyone, regardless of who they are or where they come from or what they have or what they might not have, really, you know, just that everyone deserves to be treated with professionalism, dignity, and respect. I think that's so critical in a judge. And so I'll be, you know, cognizant every single day of the trust that all of you will have placed in me to be good and decent and apply the law fairly and equally and with the highest degree of professionalism.
So who's running in your race? It's just you and the incumbent, and the incumbent is JAIMIE Goodwin?
JAIMIE Goodman, and Ms. Siperstein is on the line too. She's joining us tonight as well, and it's good to see her as always. And so just in brief summary, that's a little bit about me and why I'm running. You know, in my spare time, I hope everyone's been doing, I don't really have spare time these days, so I probably shouldn't have used that phrase, but I hope everyone's doing well, especially during this crazy time in our history. I know for my part, I've been going to a lot of food distributions and handing out food and supplies to people who need it. I've done that about a dozen times throughout various parts of the county because I think it's so critical you have judges who stay engaged in the community and want to help the community that they're from. I'm Adam Myron. The election's coming up. People are already voting, but there's the early voting period starting August 3rd, and then election day, which is August 18th. If you're inclined to vote for me, you know, I would ask that you just find Myron in the middle. It's the easiest way. It's because my name will be between two others. So other people have to speak too. I could talk all day. It's one of my faults, but I really appreciate the time to sit and chat with everybody. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. So thank you.
All right, I just want to ask you 3 quick questions. You can give me a quick answer.
Okay.
Jury instructions usually say that you should not allow compassion to enter into your decision. Do you agree with that? Do you agree that compassion shouldn't influence the decision of a judge?
That's a tough one, because from an ethical standpoint, I really shouldn't be commenting on what standard jury instructions say in terms of whether or not I believe in what they say. I have to follow the law regardless of what it is. Now, I do believe that there's always room for compassion in how a judge serves the community. I think compassion is an important thing. And that's just a recognition that everybody carries with them a life experience that brings them to that moment, which is probably one of the worst days of their life in court. And so, you know, I guess the way to sum it up is one of my favorite quotes, which is a very old quote, but it's be kind, for everyone is always going through a great battle. Everyone's fighting a great battle. And that just means that we all have our life experiences. You have to be compassionate. That doesn't mean that you don't apply the law fairly and equally to everybody else, but it means that you at least understand the impact that you're having on somebody's life. Because
how about justice? How does justice fit in with your decision making? Does justice enter the equation?
Well, justice is the paramount goal of a judge. We who labor here seek only truth, and it's really truth and justice for everyone. Now, the notion of what I might think is just, where I don't have the discretion to stray from what the law is, I have to follow the law. That's what I would be elected to do, is to follow the law in every given scenario. And that's going to be a difficult thing because we're all human, right? Everybody has their own notion of what might be just, even though it might not be in accordance with the law. But I think, this is going to sound really corny, but I think that every judge has to have 3 attributes, just like in the Wizard of Oz. You have to have a heart, you have to have a brain, and most important, you have to have, well, at least equally important, you have to have courage. And that's courage to make the tough decisions that don't always seem intuitive to you and might not seem intuitive to the public, but that are fair and in accordance with the law.
I appreciate the answer. As a practicing attorney for 40 years, I can say that a lot of times the legal system lacks a heart, lacks a brain, and lacks courage. And we're looking for judges who can interject those qualities into the legal proceedings. One other thing I wanted to ask you about, you know, when people come into court, the defendant has an attorney, the plaintiff has an attorney, but the earth, the planet, doesn't have anyone speaking for them. If there's something that's going on in your court system that's going to harm Mother Earth and hurt the planet, is there anyone to speak for them? Would you listen to what the earth is trying to say, so that the earth has a fighting chance of surviving in our legal system when our country is doing so much to destroy the earth?
That's a beautiful question. It's not one that, I mean, I have to stick to the guidepost of I'm going to apply the law fairly and equally. But look, Dor Va-Dor means, as you know, means from generation to generation. And if you live your life in a way that you recognize that everything you do has an impact on future generations, I think you're gonna do right by the earth and by the litigants and by the entire justice system.
Adam, I want to thank you very much for being with us. I wish you well. I thank you for all the community service that you're doing, and I thank you for wanting to get involved in the legal system, trying to make the world a better place. We really appreciate you. Thank you so much. If you got other places to go to campaign, be my guest. You're always welcome to be with Dor Va-Dor and to share, and we'll be here on Friday night as well. Thank you so much.
I'm going to hang out for a little while, but thank you so much.
Good. Thank you. All right, who's your worthy opponent? Where is she?
She's one line, and CARYN Siperstein.
All right, let's go with CARYN. CARYN?
Hi, Rabbi. How are you?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
Good. I missed the initial instructions. Did you just want to hear a little bit about me?
Sure. Take it away. Share a few thoughts. Take a few moments. Tell us a little about yourself while you're running, and then we'll hit you with some questions. And if you want to stick around afterwards, we'll have other people ask you some questions too. So go right ahead.
Great. Well, thank you for having me, first of all. I really appreciate it. My name is CARYN Siperstein, and I'm running for Palm Beach County Circuit Court Judge in Group 30. A very popular question from some of the people in your congregation is, are you Robin Siperstein's sister? And the answer is yes. She works in Boynton, and my history is longstanding in the community. My kids had gone to Donna Klein Jewish Academy in Boca for quite some time, and I served on their board of trustees. I also served in the business cabinet for the Jewish Federation, as well as co-chaired the women's casual group. So I've been very involved in the community and have long volunteered here. I grew up in New Jersey, as you can tell from my accent, and I went to Solomon Schechter Day School from kindergarten through 12th grade. I then went to Brandeis and then to Brooklyn Law School. I eventually moved to Florida with my two daughters and my husband. My two daughters are now 10 and 12, and we adopted a rescue puppy, Zippy. I currently am working for the Florida Attorney General's office as an assistant attorney general in the Civil Litigation Bureau. And I handle a wide range of matters, which include personal injury, tort litigation, premise liability, prison litigation, constitutional challenges, eminent domain, on occasion appellate matters. And so I feel like what differentiates me from the other candidates is that I have a history of public service, and I do a diverse amount of legal work. Sometimes I even appear in criminal court. I serve at the discretion of my boss. And before that, I served as a mediator for the state of Florida in the 15th Judicial Circuit, the very circuit I'm running to be a judge in. I am a mediator in circuit, county, family, and dependency. And when I worked at the courthouse, I worked in the North County, South County, and the main branch. I handled divorces, child custody, in very serious matters. But importantly, I was able to work with parties impartially and fairly. And I feel that it doesn't matter, the backgrounds of the people. People need to be treated with respect and dignity, and have the ability to be heard. And that's something that Adam has very eloquently stated, is that in this particular race, it's a serious issue, which is why I'm running, because I feel that I can make a positive change and be the difference that our community deserves. So that is why I'm running. And did you have any other questions?
Yeah, let me just ask you questions. First of all, I appreciate you and Adam being candid with us about the current occupant, because a lot of times people don't like to disparage others, but most people have no clue what's going on in the courtroom. As a litigator, I know it makes a big difference who's sitting behind that bench and who's wearing that robe. And so I appreciate the two of you wanting to come out and restore integrity into the seat in the judicial system. I have a few quick questions I'd like to ask you, and if you can give me quick answers, that would be great. In the jury instructions, typical jury instructions, they say don't let compassion enter your decision making. Do you agree with that? You agree as a judge that compassion should not be a factor in your decision making?
So similar to what Adam had said, as a judge, I will be compassionate and empathetic because most of the time coming to court is very intimidating for people, and it's probably one of the most stressful times of their lives. And you have to be able to listen to all the facts and understand and make sure that the people know that you are hearing them. And then you do have to apply the law to the facts of each given case. I feel that with the jury instruction, what they're trying to say to you is sometimes there are emotional things that go on. They don't want you to, be swayed by those things that are not necessarily factual or legal. So, the question definitely has two parts to it, but as a judge, I definitely will be compassionate and caring. And I think that's one of the important things about running in this race, because that's needed.
How about, then you must have heard my question about the planet. Is there anybody left to speak for the planet? If people come in and they're litigating and they're both arguing their point, and the earth is going to suffer greatly from whatever decision you make, is there anyone to speak up, or would you consider the needs of planet Earth, which is the basis of all life, in your decision making?
So, as a judge, that's a potential judge presiding over a case, again, you have to listen to all the facts and apply the law. That is the role of the judge. But I do hear you that, there are tough decisions that have to be made, and it's important to be aware of all the issues as a judge and, making your rulings and determinations.
I just want to share with you, as an environmental attorney, I've been in court many times. The judges have a huge amount of discretion. They can determine which line of cases they want, which arguments they want. And for instance, with the agricultural reserve, there were decisions made to destroy it and to allow developers to move in. And judges just completely ignored the environment, had no clue or even cared about, well, how is this going to affect the Everglades? Why did people even have land use laws in the first place to protect the planet? They couldn't care less. They cared about who's got a lot of the money, the developers. And I just hope that when we have judges, if there's any discretion at all, that they decide that the planet is worth thinking about also. One other question I wanted to ask you. You have a great deal of Jewish background. Do your Jewish beliefs, would they enter into the equation at all? Your ideals, your principles from Judaism, or are they on a shelf somewhere?
Well, I feel that it's a component that I'm comprised of. It makes me who I am. And I feel that a big part of Judaism is the law. I mean, the Torah, it's the law. I obviously will follow the law for the state of Florida, and I will follow the law that I must apply. But, I do think that's what has made me, and maybe part of my serious interest in the law, because that was something that I always grew up with the Tanakh, and learning to question some of the laws. I mean, I think that was something that, was instilled in me from an early age. But one of the most important things for me was I decided that I wanted to become a lawyer because I wanted to help people. And that is also a component in the Jewish religion. So I feel like all of these things have made me the person who I am. And, I want to serve the public, and I want to do so humbly. And hopefully with everyone's vote, I can do that.
I appreciate your time. I'm going to ask Adam another question also, because I think he didn't get quite as much time, but I really appreciate your responses. You seem like you'd be a great judge, and Adam, you also. I just want to give you a chance to respond to that last question, then we'll get to Judge Gillen. I have no idea what your moral religious beliefs are, nor is that a component, but do those beliefs that you have, those ideals that you have, those religious or moral ethical ideals, do they influence how you would decide?
My religious upbringing cannot influence how I would decide as a judge. I have to follow the law of Florida. Now, having said that, from a cultural aspect, growing up in a Jewish household, you know, I can tell you that probably one of the most important things I ever heard when I was younger was that very well-known quote about, first they came for this group. I'm going to mess up the quote if I try, but I think everyone knows it. First they came for this group, and no one. I didn't speak because I wasn't part of that group. And then they came for the next group, and I didn't speak up because I wasn't part of that group. And then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. You know, that is a reflection of the value that one of the values I was brought up with, which is to always be thinking about justice for everyone, and to not be afraid to seek justice for everyone. That's my guiding principle. It certainly comes out of one of the darkest days of our religion's history. And that's what influences me in general as a human being. But I would have to apply the law fairly and equally in accordance with the law. But I can't let my religious beliefs affect how I would rule in court. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I appreciate.
And if I may, I just want to point out, because I think everybody should have a fair opportunity. Judge Goodman has entered the room. It says Richard Giorgio for some reason, but he's in here, and I hope he has an opportunity to speak as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you both. Okay, now I guess let's turn it over to Judge Goodman then, and then we'll have Judge Gillen. As Judge Goodman's on the line?
Yeah, I've asked him to unmute.
Okay.
Okay,
Can you hear me all right?
I can, and hold on. Okay, yes,
Great.
we can.
All right, go right ahead.
All right. You just let me give you a little bit of an introduction about myself.
Tell us who you are. I'm not sure if your name is correct.
Yep. No, I'm Circuit Court Judge JAIMIE GOODMAN.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I am late. I was in a endorsement interview, and I think I let the folks know that I'd be a little bit late.
No worries.
I've served as your circuit court judge for over 5.5 years. I've served in the circuit civil division, the probate division, the guardianship division. I have extensive jury trial experience, the most jury trial experience in this race. I have presided over 49 jury trials during my tenure as a circuit court judge. And prior to being a circuit court judge, I have tried 26 jury trials. Jury trial experience is important. My opponent, Mr. Myron, has tried 0 jury trials. Ms. Siperstein has tried 2 jury trials during their respective careers. A little bit about my background. I grew up in New York, the product of public school education, went to Cornell University, Cornell Law School. Then I moved to Detroit, and I worked for a corporation for the first 5 years, and then as a partner in a law firm representing that corporation. In 1993, I opened up my own practice representing civil rights victims in employment discrimination cases where they were subjected to workplace discrimination. And then I became a judge. So in total, I have 37 years of courtroom experience. As a judge, I was selected to serve and did serve as a faculty member at Florida Judicial College, teaching new circuit court judges civil trial procedure. And I've also run a very efficient docket. I volunteer as a judge on the weekends for the City of Riviera Beach Drug Court. And quite frankly, given our times, uncertain times, this is not the time for on-the-job training. I've been endorsed by a number of different organizations, many attorneys who have appeared before me. One of the organizations that I was endorsed by is Women's Issues Now. And the reason why that endorsement is important is because my opponents talk about this survey, the survey taken by anonymous attorneys, when there were over 7,800 eligible voters, only 278 participated in the survey as it relates to me. But Women's Issues Now, they have individuals that actually go out and watch the judges when they preside over cases. And what they indicated in their endorsement of myself is that they were looking for judges that have compassion and who ask the right questions, and that was why they endorsed me and gave me the honor of their endorsement. And really what I'm looking for in talking with all of you is so you learn a little bit more about me and you understand my background. I can respond to your questions. And most importantly, I'm looking for your vote on re-election, because I believe that I deserve to be re-elected as your circuit court judge based on my experience and my community service. My community service started way before I started running for judge. Thank you.
Judge Goodman, I appreciate your joining with us. And I'd like to ask you a couple of questions.
Of course.
The survey that the opponents talk about, do you have any idea why some of these attorneys would have found fault with you? And do you acknowledge that there's anything that you might have done that could be done better?
Yeah, none of us are perfect, and I'm no exception. One of the things that I need to do better is sometimes I'm too stern and occasionally too brusque with certain attorneys who come into the courtroom and are simply unprepared, don't really know the law when they come before me, and during certain trials take up unnecessarily the time of witnesses and jurors who are there to serve the public. And so sometimes I am tough on the attorneys, all right? I'm not there to win a popularity contest or to quote philosophy, all right? I am there to make the correct rulings, to make sure that everybody receives equal justice in the courtroom, that the law is applied equally. Now, the area that I do need to improve on is the area in which I let people know that they're not meeting the expectations that I expect of lawyers. I hold high standards for myself, and I hold high standards for the lawyers who appear before me. And quite frankly, to rely on a poll where there are 7,708 lawyers who are eligible to vote, 278 vote. It's a popularity contest. It's unreliable. In fact, you may recall at one point when they were writing an article on these surveys, the former chief judge of Palm Beach County indicated that 81 individuals participated in the evaluations as it related to him when he was chief judge. And he acknowledged in that article that there was no way 81 individuals could have appeared before him because during the 4 years as chief, he was holding an administrative position. But the short answer to your question, there's always room for improvement. And I've talked to other lawyers who I respect, and they've indicated that, look, Judge, sometimes you interrupt us too quickly before we get a chance to present our arguments, and sometimes you're a little bit too brusque Maybe you don't realize it. And I took those criticisms to heart.
Okay. Do you take it out on the client if an attorney doesn't live up to your standards? Like, will that affect your ruling towards that client?
Never. In
Okay.
fact, first of all, the answer is never, because that would be disgraceful if anybody did that. And I do not do that. In fact, it's quite the opposite. My goal is to make sure that each side has the opportunity to fully present the law to me. And sometimes where there might be a certain frustration level is when a lawyer cites a case to the court that's either not on point or has been reversed, and they're not even citing you the correct case. And it's my job to make sure I get it right. So in fact, it's never an issue as it relates to the client, because at the end of the day, equal justice is paramount.
I have another question for you. The typical jury instructions say that compassion should not enter into the decision-making of the juror. Do you believe that's the same with the judge? Do you believe that's a good jury instruction? And do you believe that as a judge, that compassion should not enter into your decision-making?
Well, as it relates to the jury instruction, I believe what it says is that sympathy or bias should not play any consideration. That's what the instruction says.
Do you agree with that? There should be no sympathy from the jury and no sympathy from a judge and no sympathy in the legal system?
As it relates to the jury, I agree with that jury instruction. As it relates to the judge, there's always going to be and should be that emotional attachment and that compassion. But that compassion has to be tempered, not to take sides one way or the other, but to apply the facts and make the correct ruling. Well, one thing that is interesting, and one of the thing that I enjoyed about being a judge in family, is that what you want to do in your heart is also what the law tells you to do. I'll give you an example. When you're determining issues as it relates to children, all right, the law is the judge needs to determine the best interests of the child. Same thing with guardianship, the best interest of the vulnerable individual. So that gives a judge a unique opportunity to use that compassion and use that emotional attachment in a way so that you are making the best decision for that family or that vulnerable individual.
Well, one other question.
Sure.
Under our legal system, the environment of the United States has been pretty much devastated and destroyed. And there are rivers that are polluted, land is desecrated, climate change. And this is all done under the law. Do you as a judge feel any obligation in your decision-making to speak for the earth and to help the earth have a fighting chance of surviving against the onslaught of human beings? Or is it just humans fighting it out over who's going to destroy the planet first?
All right, that's a tough question, Rabbi.
Yeah, I like those tough questions.
I know you do. But as a judge, we take an oath to follow the law and to follow the precedent that's with us. There's nobody, I'm sure there are a number of folks who have that same compassion for our environment. I have that. I was actually an advisory council member for the Arthur Marshall Foundation protecting the Everglades. All right, but at the end of the day, while that is always with me, all my experiences are with me. At the end of the day, as a judge, you have an obligation to apply the law to the facts. And if you're not ready to do that, then being a judge is probably not the right place for you. And you probably would be better suited to apply run for a legislative position.
I appreciate the answer. Let me just say that as a Jew, we have an obligation to change the law, and we have an obligation to protect the planet. And I think that anybody who's in the legal system, if you're part of a legal system that's ending up destroying Earth, I think anybody in the system has an obligation to speak up and say the system is not working well, because it's ending up destroying the source of life for everybody. Now, I'd like to open it up. I think we also have Judge, and I do want to thank you, Judge, very much for being with us. I appreciate your time and your commitment. I think we have one more person, Judge Gillen, I think is on. Is that correct?
Yes.
I am on. Thank you, Rabbi Silver. Can you hear me?
We hear you. Go right ahead.
Great. So I was born in Syracuse, New York, a few years ago. I lived all over. My dad was in broadcasting. Most people ask me whether he was in the military. He was not. Well, he was during World War II, but that isn't what caused us to move around. He was in broadcasting, and consequently, he had a number of positions all across the country. I went to a different school every year until 11th grade. While that might not have suited some people, it assisted me in being able to develop the ability to adapt and to communicate effectively with all different kinds of people from all different walks of life. So I actually appreciated having had that opportunity. Then the 11th grade and 12th grade I spent, well, 10th, 11th, and 12th I spent at Culver Military Academy in Culver, Indiana. Graduated from there and went to Denison University, where I graduated in 3 years as opposed to some longer period of time. And I went to law school at Syracuse University in New York, for those of you who are not aware. I've been practicing law for well over 30 years, 34, I think. The last 23 years I've been practicing, I've been a public servant. The last 20 years I've been a public servant here in Palm Beach County. And for the last almost 8 years now, I've been a circuit judge in Palm Beach County. I've presided over 4 different divisions within Palm Beach County, twice in civil division, once in family probate guardianship and mental health and domestic violence. And now for a little over a year, I've been presiding over a felony criminal division. I have had a great amount of experience in dealing with all manner of hearings. I've presided over thousands of hearings as a circuit judge, from jury trials to non-jury trials to evidentiary hearings to non-evidentiary hearings, hearings of all different kinds. I've presided over trials involving first-degree murder. I've presided over trials involving the most sensitive and difficult and complicated of contract disputes. I've presided over trials involving alleged professional malpractice. I've presided over trials involving disputes over property, real property and personal property. You name it, I have presided over. Even riparian rights, having to do with people's claims to underwater property. I'm happy to have been endorsed by the Fraternal Order of Police, the AFL-CIO, the Human Rights Council of Palm Beach County, the Palm Beach County Classroom Teachers Association, the Police Benevolent Association, to name most of them. I'm happy to have those evaluations, but I think what's more important are 2 things. First of all, I was selected to be Jurist of the Year by the Palm Beach County Bar, South Palm Beach County Bar Association 2 years ago. And the evaluations that have been so much of the discussion in the folks that were talking previous to me, I have fared very, very well. Over all of the evaluations that have been conducted by the Palm Beach County Bar since I became a judge, the vast majority of the folks that responded to those evaluations, who filled them out, indicated that I was either excellent or satisfactory in each and every one of the 9 categories that are each evaluation is comprised of. I'm very, very happy about that, and I think it is indicative of the respect and the high regard in which I'm held. I have the public announced support of almost 200 individuals. They are comprised of former judges, lawyers, elected officials, other public leaders, other community leaders, and that number continues to grow.
Judge, I see your family in the background. Do they endorse you too?
Yeah, they do.
That's good. You're doing well. I really appreciate your time, and I'd like to know, do you have an opponent?
I do have an opponent.
He's on the line, by the way.
Oh, all right.
Who's your
yes, I do have
opponent?
an opponent, and if he's on the line, he can speak for himself. I will tell you that he appeared in front of me perhaps 25 or 30 times when I was the last time I was in a civil division, and I was handling foreclosure cases at that time when Mr. Johnson appeared in front of me.
I'll just ask you the same question I asked everybody else, then we'll open it up to your opponent, and then we'll have everybody ask questions. Is there, in your opinion, is there any place for sympathy or compassion in your decision-making and the decisions of the jury?
Well, look, there's no room for sympathy. There is, however, room for compassion. There is a difference. There is bias. The jury instruction to which you refer, it's the same in both the civil arena as well as in criminal. It refers to bias and sympathy. There is no room for that for jurors, and there is no room for that, quite frankly, for judges either. Compassion is another matter. Once you have made a decision based on the facts that are determined either by you as the trier of fact or by a jury, you apply those facts to the law. At that point, one can allow compassion to enter into decision-making process. For example, when one is sentencing an individual who has been convicted by a jury of his or her peers, the judge may allow compassion to enter into the sentencing process. In fact, for first-degree murder cases in which the death penalty is sought by the state, there is a very specific procedure that allows for that to take place. It's called handling mitigation and exacerbation. So,
just out of curiosity, what's the difference between sympathy and compassion in your mind?
well, in my mind, when you allow yourself to be swayed by sympathy in making a decision as to what the facts are, then you are violating if you're a juror, you're violating your obligations as a juror. And if you're trying the facts to the bench, so to speak, as a trier of fact, as a judge, you're doing the same thing. But once you've made that decision and you've made those factual determinations, you can allow compassion to enter into your decision-making process ultimately.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm not sure Webster agrees with that distinction, but I do appreciate it. I appreciate the clarification. Makes a lot of sense to me. Let's have your opponent speak, and then we'll open it up to everybody else. All right, go ahead, Sharon. And thank you very much for being here.
And thank you. I apologize for my delay. I was involved in another event. How much time do I have?
Take a few minutes.
Okay.
Share with us a little background, why you're running, who you are, and then we'll take some questions.
Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Henry Quinn Johnson. I'm a candidate for Circuit Court Judge, Group 16. I'm a 28-year resident of Florida and a 16-year resident of Palm Beach County. I have over 22 years of jury trial and litigation attorney experience. I have served as a Florida assistant statewide prosecutor, assistant state attorney, and also assistant Florida attorney general, and also as a trial attorney. I personally have tried more than 100 jury trials and over 500 contested non-jury trials. I have litigated thousands of non-contested jury trials and evidentiary hearings and other matters, and I have the most jury trial experience of any candidate in this race. I have also litigated in every division of the circuit court, including civil, criminal, family, juvenile, and probate. I have handled contested criminal and civil cases around the state of Florida. In criminal, I have litigated all types of serious felony and misdemeanor cases as both a prosecutor and as a defense attorney. and also as a juvenile defense attorney as well. I've handled cases involving homicides, sexual battery, domestic violence, drug trafficking, and white-collar crimes. In civil cases, I've personally litigated cases in eminent domain, family law, probate, personal injury, small business litigation, contract law, and real estate law, including foreclosure litigation. In addition to my legal experience, I've also served in the United States Army for over 27 years as a soldier, as a lieutenant colonel, and a judge advocate general. As a judge advocate general, I've litigated cases on military installations around the world involving military justice, administrative law, operational law, contract and fiscal law, detention operations, intelligence and information operations law, and also cyber law issues. I have been awarded, been recognized for my service in the military, and have been awarded the Legion of Merit and also the Bronze Star Medal. I've served in 3 different war zones, the Afghanistan War, the Bosnia conflict, and also the Gulf War as well. I have a Bachelor's of Science degree in chemistry from the University of South Carolina. I have a Master's in Urban Planning from Florida State University and my law degree from the University of Florida. I'm married to Dr. Terry Johnson. She's a pediatrician, and we have 2 young sons, Daniel and Elijah. And I'm running for circuit court because I am uniquely qualified to serve the people of Palm Beach County. I believe that my qualification exceeds those of my opponent. My opponent cannot complete a full 6-year term, and I think it's important that people be able to have some confidence in the judiciary. Right now, a lot of people do not have a lot of confidence because they feel like if they cannot afford an attorney, that they may not get a fair deal. Or if they feel like they can't afford an attorney, then sometimes you have people hire 3 or 4 different firms to do the same work. And so I just think it's important that we have a judiciary that's free of controversy and conflict, and that's what I offer. And as I stated, I personally have the most jury trial experience. I've been endorsed by the National Organization for Women and also for the by the Palm Beach County Police Benevolent Associations. And when they sent me the endorsement letter, they said that they were going to tell all of their members, their family and friends to vote for me. So I appreciate that. But I've also received the most endorsements from current and former elected officials across this county. People in the community are excited about my candidacy because of my qualifications and real world leadership experience. And one thing I would just add is that as you learn more about the race and us as candidates, to please Google myself and my opponent. You can go back as far as 15 years and read the articles that have been written about us. And so I ask for your support, and thank you very much for allowing me to share this information with you tonight.
Well, thank you very much. You obviously have a very impressive background. But I wanted to ask you about one thing that you said. You mentioned that your opponent can't serve the full 6-year term. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Why is that? Why not?
The retirement age now has been raised to 75, and it's my understanding that he will reach that age of 75 before he would be able to complete a full 6-year term, which means that the people's vote will be nullified at some point because the governor would have to appoint a new judge.
What do you think about that law?
Which one?
It says that somebody has to retire at 75, even if they're in perfectly good health and perfectly okay mentally.
Well, I mean, it used to be 70, and it was increased to 75.
Hey, we're getting somewhere.
Sorry?
All right, we're getting somewhere. I just want to say I take off my yarmulke to you and to all the candidates. We got some really stellar, wonderful candidates. I'm going to turn it over to everybody else now, and then if the folks are still on and they want to make a concluding statement, go right ahead. I turn it over to everybody else to ask any questions. Sharon, can you,
Yes,
is there
yes.
anybody with questions?
Is there anybody raising their hand? I don't see. Saad Hussein is here. I don't know if you, Emily, do you want to say something? Wait a minute. You gotta unmute yourself.
I always want to say something. I guess 23 states have judges that are appointed either by the governors or a combination of attorneys and or legislators. Other states have judges that are elected like we are. I was wondering if anybody wanted to comment on that.
I'd be happy to comment on that. This is Judge Gillen. It's actually a hybrid. Florida is a hybrid. I was in fact appointed back in the end of 2012, and no one decided to challenge me in 2014 when I was up for election. So I was elected rather without opposition. This is the first time someone has decided to challenge me. With respect to that process, the 15th Judicial Circuit Judicial Nominating Commission is widely regarded as one of the best, if not the best, in the state of Florida. They go through all the candidates with a fine-toothed comb and come up with a shorter list of from among those applicants and send it up to the governor for selection process. It's a little disingenuous to say that I cannot complete my term. By that I mean this. I will be able to complete 5 years and 2 months of a 6-year term. None of us knows what the future holds. None of us knows what's going to happen tomorrow. A very good friend of mine, Judge Minu Sasser, died in her 50s. Nobody expected that, but that's the cards, the hand, if you will, that was dealt her. So I think it's disingenuous and perhaps unfair for someone to suggest that because I will reach age 75 before I complete that term, after completing 86% of it, that's a reason not to vote for me. I think that is ridiculous. Furthermore, the Sun Sentinel endorsed me in the highest possible manner, saying that the choice in Group 16 is easy. The Sun Sentinel said I should be given by the voters another term even if I can't finish it. I encourage you to look at their article endorsing me.
Judge Gillen, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
And also for your opponent. If it could be worked out somehow that you would agree with your opponent, you'll serve 5 years and 2 months, and then he serves the remainder of the term, then he can run for re-election. If that could be agreed upon between the two of you, would you take the agreement?
I'd have to look more into my opponent's background. I see what he's been saying. I have disagreed with some of the things he said, and I think there's been some embellishment, to be honest with you. But look, generally speaking, I think he's probably qualified to become a judge. But for me to suggest that I would turn over the reins at the end of my 5 years and 2 months to him in particular, as opposed to someone else, I just can't go down that road.
Hey, just trying to work things out. Okay, I see we have side with saying.
Rabbi Silver, may I respond?
Yeah, go right ahead. Yeah, would you take that offer? Would you take the offer?
Well, I'm too far in the race now to take the offer because I'm confident that I will prevail. But I would say this, my opponent just basically said that, he's not sure about my background and he thinks that I am, there's some embellishment. There is no embellishment about my record. I served 27 years in the United States Army. I served our nation in 3 wars. That's not an embellishment. I'm lucky to have survived 3 different war zones, and to say that I embellish my record is, it's just I think it's just shameful. And there's nothing that's in my record that's embellished. And for him to say that is just not fair. It's just very inappropriate. And I believe that he should apologize for making those type of statements because it wasn't called for, and I said nothing to provoke it.
Well, let me ask you this. I'm gonna give your opponent, Judge Gillen, the opportunity to cite an example if you'd like to about what he claims to be an embellishment. You can refute it if you'd like. But I also wanted to ask you, it has nothing to do with your race for as a judge. What do you think about what we're doing in Afghanistan? I mean, should we still be fighting in Afghanistan, or what should we do?
Well, I mean, nobody wants a very prolonged war. you know, even the people that are there. When I was there for a year, it was one of the most deadliest records, you know, a deadliest year on record in 2008. We saw a lot of people who were killed in action. We saw a lot of people that were sent back who committed suicide, and there were also accidental deaths as well. And so, I mean, war itself is not, you know, a beautiful thing. Nobody wants it, especially, you know, military people who have to put their lives, you know, at risk. And so it has been going on a very long time, you know, since 2003. The reality is in Afghanistan, I mean, you have a country that's landlocked, and they're not really in a position to defend themselves. I mean, you have the.
So what do you think we should do, though? We've been there for
well,
all this
at some
time.
point,
What should we do?
Well, at some point, we have to get out of there. You know, there are no more military targets, you know, to be had. You
But
know,
how many poor people should die before we decide to get out? Like,
well, I mean, that's not up to me. I mean, that's
Yeah.
up to the, you know, to the national policymakers.
you know, we have some of the candidates still left. I'm gonna ask them to take a
Rabbi
minute and sum
Silver,
up.
Rabbi Silver, I need to step out.
Go right ahead. Why don't you sum up, and I'll let everybody else take a minute. Everybody who's running for office to sum up. So go ahead, take the floor.
Okay, thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate everyone's time. I enjoyed our conversation, and I'm running for positive change, and I hope that everyone tells 10 of their friends. And thank you again, and have a great evening. And I'm just going to sign off. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being with us, and good luck to you. Take care. Who else would like to offer a final comment? Any of the candidates?
If no one else is going to do it, I will.
Go right ahead.
Judge Gillen again. First, with respect to my embellishment comment, what I mean to suggest is this. My opponent has time and time again suggested that he has more experience than I. That is simply not the case. One cannot equate experience as a lawyer. By the way, I have 34 years of it. One cannot equate that with presiding over cases as a judge. Rabbi Silver, you certainly know that. That just isn't the case. But aside from that, and there is absolutely no question in my mind that Mr. Johnson is to be commended for his service to the country in the military.
Well, there's a difference. There's a difference, though, between saying that your qualifications or your experience in trial or in court are bigger, and saying somebody's embellishing their record. That's a different scenario. So you might want to, I don't know, you might want to reconsider that statement. I understand what you're saying. If you want to say that you disagree with him, that he's got more trial or courtroom experience, that's different.
I will disagree with that then.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Go right ahead.
Listen, I would ask that, thank you for letting me participate tonight. I would ask that everybody give me the opportunity to continue to serve the people of Palm Beach County as I've done over the last 8 years, and before that as a public servant as well here in Palm Beach County. My experience, quite frankly, is superior to that of my opponent, and I'm hopeful that the voters will look at it that way and allow me to continue to serve and give me another term, even though I can complete 86% of it. Thank you, Rabbi Silver.
Hey, Judge, we do appreciate your being here and your service. And I just want everyone to know about all the judicial candidates and the lawyers. Our legal system and our rights under the Constitution are meaningless unless we have lawyers who are willing to argue them and judges who are willing to enforce them. Thank you for participating and being part of the system.
And
Henry,
I'd like
go
to
right ahead.
add something. Yes, sir.
Go
I'd
right
like to
ahead.
add something as well. And, you know, I guess just to kind of, you know, a little bit of a closing, I would point out that, you know, if you go to my website, quinnjohnsonforjudge.com, you will see that I have the most endorsements from current and former elected officials. They are, as I stated, they're excited, you know, that someone with my qualifications and real world experience is willing to serve. And because of that, I also point out again, you know, to read the Palm Beach Post and the Sun Sentinel articles that have been written about both me and my opponent over the past 15 years. And you know, we're in a pandemic, we're in a time of change. And so I'd ask everyone to, you know, to join the winning side of history and vote for me, Quinn Johnson for Judge.com. Thank you very much.
I just want to let both of you know, I don't normally take sides or anything. I just want to say, I think both of you are very impressive individuals. And I know we won't go wrong either way. And I do thank you very much for being with us so that the people can make an educated choice. When it comes to judges, people usually don't know what's going on. We made a tape of this and it's available. So if you want to send people to our website to hear it, they can. Thank you for allowing us to hear a little bit about you. And thank you so much for your service.
Thank you, Rabbi Silver.
Thank you, Rabbi Silver. Thank you very much.
Thanks. All right, Sharon. Is Said Hussein still on or no?
Yes, I'm still here.
Said, you have a lot of patience and endurance. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
So now that I've hit other people with a tough question, what do you think we should do about Afghanistan?
Are you asking me, sir?
Yeah, go right. I know it's not your bailiwick, but just out of curiosity.
Well, just to let everybody know who I am, my name is Said Hussein. I'm a 22-year-old candidate running for the Florida House District 91, Boca Raton, Delray, and Boynton Beach. And I'm an environmentalist, senior citizens, and HOA and condo association reform candidate. And as for the military thing, you know, I think we shouldn't be involved in any of these foreign conflicts. I'm from a country where, which is from Guyana, South America, where in the 50s, the British Empire invaded the country of where I was born, and where they were able to overthrow the Constitution just because Indians like myself back in the day finally gained power for themselves. And I think it's ridiculous to see that we as a society are trying to dictate to other countries how we should do. Let everybody have their own process. We cannot force process and change upon others. And although, you know, I support our veterans completely, but they're our soldiers. They're not the ones sending, it's the politicians, and these are the people that are sending our soldiers over there. So I think it's ridiculous that we're wasting our time and money on those when we need to focus on environmental issues here, our senior citizens here. I mean, these are my most important issues. Yes, sir?
I know that what happened in your country, and you know better than me, was wrong. But does that mean that every time we intervene anywhere or fight anywhere that it's wrong because what happened in your country was wrong? And I want to follow up. If there's a terrorist group that's operating freely in a foreign country, and from there they're launching terrorist acts against the United States and killing thousands of people, should we just say, yeah, let them make up their own decision, or should we get involved?
You see, you have to work with the groups there. You know, if you want to go and invade a whole country just so you could target a few groups, you know, that's a very complex issue. You know, look at what we did in Iraq. We said the same exact type of thing, with weapons of mass destruction, and there was no evidence of that. It was just for political ploy, for politicians to make more money off the backs of the Americans.
I know, but what about Afghanistan? Afghanistan was harboring the Taliban, which murdered thousands of us. Do you think we should have just not done anything and just let them continue to operate out of Afghanistan and go on slaughtering innocent people? Are you saying that there's never a time for military intervention?
There is a right time for everything, and that was a definite necessary to save our women and children over there being slaughtered. You know, there's a time and place for military conflict and military interest. And I think, Barry, as you know, we have to do our proper research and make sure that we, especially politicians, are making sure they're doing their homework before we invest into a long-term projectile such as Afghanistan, and do our homework first before we end up spending our money. You know, as a candidate, I'm making sure I'm vetting every single dollar that I'm spending on, and I think the American people and our politicians should do the same.
Let me ask you something else, Side. You know, we had judges on and judicial candidates saying, hey, I can't make policy decisions. I can't do anything to protect the planet. That's the legislature. And I'm glad to see that you have environment behind you on your side. But more important to me is the fact that you've actually done something and worked towards the environment. I congratulate you on that. And I want to ask you again, do you think that your party, the Republican Party, has been deficient in protecting the environment? And if so, if you get elected, will you help try to reform the party to take better care of the planet?
Absolutely. And honestly, I've been partnering with Democrats and Republicans And I'm telling everybody, I'm an environmentalist and senior citizens first candidate. I'm not party first at all. And I'm willing to stand against the party because for far too long, you know, even on both sides, we've seen that politicians want to make more money off of on the backs of our environment. You know, as a candidate, my mission is to preserve our agriculture reserve, advocate for green spaces, and protect our senior citizens. This is beyond party. You know, this is beyond everything else. So as a candidate and as hopefully a state representative, I know that I will represent all people equally, beyond party affiliation. And if I have to stand against the party, I'll do it publicly. And you, Barry, you'll know. You'll be the first one to know.
Well, Syed, you are like a breath of fresh air, and in this climate we need fresh air. But I would say, you say, if I have to stand against my party, I think you already do. I think your party has already made known their desire to declare war on the planet. And I think it's already out there.
Over the weekend, actually, I ended up meeting Representative Matt Gaetz, and I told Congressman, I'm sorry. I said, Representative, I am environment first as a Republican. That is the #1 thing, and it's actually a Republican ideal. I don't know why, you know, people.
Well, I'm gonna give you more unsolicited advice. Let everybody know that you're a conservative, and therefore you want to conserve the planet, and you call on all conservatives to be conservationists and to go back to the roots of what it means to be a conservative, to conserve the best part of America, which is the beauty of the earth that we have. Anyway, Syed, always a pleasure to hear from you. Thank you very much for being with us. Is there anybody who has any questions or any comments? Okay, then, Emily, did you want to share something? Joyce, go right ahead.
Thank you very much for offering this format. It's really been very helpful, and I'm very appreciative of this opportunity to see the candidates.
Thank you very much, Joyce. Now, I have an announcement for everybody. Okay, tomorrow night. Oh, Harris, you want to share some thoughts?
He's on mute, sir.
Harris? I don't know if we can. Sharon, are you still with us? Oh, Sharon left. I guess we're still.
No, I'm here. I'm here.
Oh, can you unmute Harris?
I'm trying. Harris, unmute yourself. Harris, unmute yourself.
Rabbi, you could also unmute him. You could send him.
I can't. He's got a different version.
Okay.
Well, let me just share this.
Okay.
Tomorrow night, we're going to have something. We're going to have a really wild evening, because at 5 o'clock, Urs Schlossberg and Tina Polsky,
wow,
2 people who don't particularly care for each other too much, 2 people who have slugged it out in the media and campaign ads, 2 people that I've spoken to and have expressed their feelings towards each other, which are less than amicable. They are going to have a debate at 5 o'clock just for the sheer entertainment value. You don't want to miss it, but it's also going to be informative. We need to figure out who to vote for. If you don't live in their district, it doesn't matter, because you can still help one of them out. You can send in contributions or spread the word or make telephone calls. So don't miss this. It's going to be really wild. Tomorrow at 5 o'clock, join with us. And I thank Sharon. And now it looks like I filibustered long enough. Harris is now unmuted. Go ahead, Harris.
I just want to say I thought all the candidates were sensational, and it'd be pretty hard to pick a candidate after listening to all these people speak. That's my opinion.
Yeah, you know what? I've appeared in front of a lot of judges, and they are much better than the typical typical folks that I come into contact with. Pretty impressive crowd. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, Rabbi.
Syed, good luck to you. Live long and prosper.
I will, sir.
Very good.
Goodbye,
Take care, everybody.
Take care, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.